Welcome back, everyone, to Here for the Truth. We're on episode 8 right now, 2 months in. And as usual, we got another special guest for you today. Allison, Lurey, Nixon is our guest. And Allison's someone I connected through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition years ago, and we've stayed in touch. She's awesome. She's badass. I'm going to actually read her bio for you all so you get a little idea of who this amazing woman is. So Allison is a self-sabotage and integrative nutrition health coach from Atlanta, where she lives with her husband, 2 sons, and 3 dogs. She was diagnosed with Tourette syndrome at 10 years old and was promptly put on several medications, which led her to exploring alternative healing modalities. At 14, she took herself off of all medications and pursued dietary and nutritional therapies, which Allie used to successfully heal her Tourette's. As a result, Allison developed a deep love of learning about the human body and its connection to the mind and spirit. She has committed her life to seeking truth, uncovering wisdom, and helping others break free from their own limiting beliefs and self-sabotaging behaviors. I love it.
Nice.
Perfect for our podcast. Allison's she's a truth warrior. You know, for those of you that follow her on Instagram, she no holds barred. She speaks her mind, and we really value her for that. So thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful to be here.
Cool.
Yeah.
So why are you here? Why are you here for the truth?
Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but the state of things is horrifying. And, I think that it's pretty incumbent on just ordinary people like you and me to be courageous and speak openly and honestly about what it is that we're seeing happening, because what is the quote? All that's required for evil to... That's my dog. I apologize.
No worries.
All that's required for evil to
persist or something.
To persist is for good people to do nothing. And so, I'm just trying to do my tiny little part in the corner of my Instagram. And obviously the stakes feel very high for me because I'm a mom.
Yeah.
So I've never been the type of person who kept her mouth shut, but I try. But now that I'm a mom, I don't feel like I can.
Well, listen, you're not designed to keep your mouth shut. For anyone that knows human design, you're a manifester, and manifestors, they express, they speak their mind, they inform. And so, seeing you kind of in that state and in that place just shows me that you're even more aligned with your mission and who you're supposed to be. So I commend you for that. You're inspiring to me. I love what you do. I love what you speak, how you speak out, and you fight for your children. You want a better future for them. And I think it's really courageous. And that's another reason why we wanted to have you on, because, we want those truth seekers and truth warriors that are willing to just be in it, to be in the arena, like that quote that I think is a Theodore Roosevelt quote, like being in the arena and doing it and getting messy and
get your ass kicked.
Yeah. As opposed
and
to
if you're not, shut up.
People are sitting, there's so many people sitting on the sidelines and looking at people like yourself, like us, and judging and talking shit. It's like, well, lace up your gloves, get in the ring, or else shut up.
Right.
That's my view.
I'm totally with you on that.
Yeah. And I think people people think peace comes as a result of not speaking your mind or speaking the truth. But to me, peace comes when we're able to speak our truth uninhibited, right? When we can freely express ourselves, no matter what that is, without having to worry about backlash or worry about what's around the corner, or who's going to perceive us in any which way. So yeah, just thought I'd throw that in there because that's something that holds a lot of people back. They don't want to put themselves out there because obviously they're scared of the response, right? But now more than ever, we need everyone, all hands on deck on this ship.
Mm-hmm. So based on what he said too, I want to ask you, how has it been for you? You were just telling us a story earlier, how you were in college and writing a paper on Michael Tazarian, and your teacher thought you were crazy, so how is it for you where you've kind of been that person that is going to live your truth, speak your mind, speak out, be outspoken. Like, what has been the reaction from maybe friends or family members or kids you went to junior high school with or whatever it is? Like, I'm curious how that is for you, how you've navigated that.
Well, I think for one, I was well prepared to always speak truth to power in really uncomfortable situations because of my upbringing. And I'm a child of abuse and a lot of trauma, not unlike a lot of people who are probably listening to your podcast. I think a lot of truth seekers come from more tumultuous upbringings, and that's what brings us to seeking a more enlightened path, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. So I think that the resistance that I get isn't as bothersome to me as it might be for other people because I just grew up with it. I'm totally used to it. However, with that said, it's not uncommon for me to get messages from, petty girls I used to go to school with who might message me and say, everyone's talking about you, who think you're crazy. And I'm just like, really? Everyone's talking about me? Okay. I'm glad to, feel okay. But ultimately, it's like, a lot of people will reach out to me and ask me, how do you have the courage to speak out about these things when the backlash you get is so great? And I just say to them, it's like a muscle. It's like any other skill you would learn. You would never go from never working out at the gym to going to the gym and like bench pressing 300 pounds. Okay. You need to work out your muscles. And this is very much just like that. So you start speaking out about what you believe in, you get some backlash, it might hurt. But then you get up and you dust yourself off and you're like, okay, I'm going to do it again. And then you do it again and you do it again and you do it again. And then finally you're just, it doesn't even bother you. And then you kind of realize that the people who have anything to say anyways are living really unconscious and small lives. And so you just kind of don't care what those people say to you or say about you.
Yeah. And I think also, and let me know if you feel this way, is that as you start speaking your truth more, those people fall away. And like you said, you don't care as much, but then this whole tribe of kindred spirits and like-minded people just show up. And that's one of the benefits, I think, of technology and social media is that there's people from all around the world that are connecting and there's friendships being built, there's alliances being built, and it's pretty awesome to see and witness. And I love what you said about the muscle thing, because I've had that same exact conversation with people who are newer in their journey. They're questioning a lot of things and, they're asking me these questions. I was like, listen, several years ago when I shared like a simple post on vaccines on Facebook and got all this backlash, like you almost have to like deal with certain things. Things come up to the surface for you as an individual to process. Sometimes your trauma comes up to deal with when you're pushing the envelope, when you're speaking out against authority. And so I said the same exact thing. I was like, it takes time, maybe you just start like talking to a friend, then maybe you share something, and then maybe you don't at all. And it's what David Whitehead said on his podcast with us, is that maybe you don't need to start a podcast or have an Instagram page, just you alone thinking. The 100th monkey effect, shifting your consciousness is going to have an impact across the board in some way, in a way that you can't even measure it. So,
I think what's also really important is that as you go through this process and you start speaking the truth, but your initial community isn't really aware or isn't used to your perspective on things, then we can easily create this dissonance between who we really are and who we've been, or what we've been, I guess, suppressing to those people whose toes we don't want to step on. You know what I mean? So it's such a natural thing to, as you more so express yourself authentically and your truth, that, as you said, man, those things are going to start bubbling. People are going to start questioning. You're going to feel that friction and that resistance. And that's where it's like, okay, can I really have a foot in both camps? Or does one thing need to be resolved or released or let go of for me to actually, accelerate further on the path that is inclined and meant for me?
Yeah, courage begets courage. So when people see you stepping out and speaking on certain subject matter that may be taboo, but they see you do it, and I may appear fearless when I speak, but I'm not always fearless. Sometimes I'm like second guessing. I'm thinking, why did I say that? Oh God, I need to turn off my phone, because when I turn on my phone tomorrow, I'm going to have all this hate mail. But when people see you speak authentically and truthfully, then it's like you said, the 100th monkey effect. It really motivates other people. And I get messages every single day from people saying, oh, I thought you were so crazy 6 months ago, but I just had this experience. And I think that, watching you kind of step in it has inspired me to speak out myself. And I say step in it, not saying that I'm saying anything that is like too outlandish. It's just, to a lot of people, the material that we talk about is probably so ludicrous to them.
Well, yeah, I mean, unless it's on the mainstream media or it's, on the radio or the internet, mainstream pages, like, it's out there. Like, you have to seek it out. It's not going to just show up for you. You have to pick up the books. You have to look at the different independent scholars. You got to follow different people on Instagram. You got to ask the questions within. That's part of the process that we talk about so much, about seeking truth. It's not going to be handed to you.
Well, I think that's the problem.
Powers that be aren't handing you the truth. They're handing you lies. They're feeding you lies. And that's what people need to understand. No, they don't.
No, that would just shatter their reality. So, yeah.
And we've been conditioned to want it to be fed for us, to be spoon-fed, right? We've been conditioned to not be inclined to do the work or actually go through any kind of process to come to our own level of discernment about anything. You mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which again, it's everything we talked about, even on our first 2 episodes, about what it means to walk an authentic path, to be on the hero's journey. It starts from within, you know, and it's like, maybe that's why some people, like you said, have had maybe more challenging lives. They felt the pain of that existence, and they're like, well, there has to be something else. What else is out there? And they started with that individual process, individuating, and then very often it guided them to other things.
Yeah.
So
that inner friction is definitely the kindling.
Yeah.
For
So
the journey.
what was it like? You know, you had brought up earlier about, writing paper on Tazarian and things like that. What was it for you? Was that initial moment where you were like, something's a little off in this world? I don't know if I trust what's being fed to me in school and media, etc.
I don't know if it was really just one thing. I honestly think that growing up, I had a skepticism for the authority figures in my life, because I learned really young that I couldn't trust the authority figures in my life, because I had one very abusive parent, and then I had a parent who was more emotionally neglectful, but not abusive. And then on top of that, there was I had a lot of health challenges as a kid. And I feel like that is often the impetus that brings people to search for truth, is they're in some kind of crisis and the authorities fail them. So for me, it was a vaccine injury that caused tics and then turned into full-blown Tourette's. And I was put on a lot of medication, which didn't help me at all. I was only 10 years old. I was told by the doctors that I would never go to high school, never graduate high school, go to college, get married, have any kind of normal life. I'd probably kill myself. This is literally what they told me and my family. And they put me on an assortment of drugs, and it didn't help. It made it worse. And so when I was 14, I moved away from home, and I took myself off of all medication, and I pursued a more holistic route for healing my brain and my body. And so I learned when I was quite young that the people who are supposed to know everything really don't know everything. So because of that, I think I'm just wired to question everything I'm told.
Yeah, I get
Yeah.
it. You know, it's amazing that you said that because I hear that so many times from people, even my own wife in school. I don't know what grade she was in. She was told that she was never going to go to college. And she has
And
two master's
she's a
degrees and she's got
doctor.
her PhD. You know,
Yeah.
because again, our school like looks at you in a certain way. And if you can't follow like a small little formulaic way of learning, like if you have a
Mhm.
different forms of intelligence or whatever the case may be, like they can't put you in the box. So then they kind of toss you out of the box and say that you're useless when they
Right.
just, because they don't know how to help you, because they don't have the tools, because the system is fucked, they just blame you. You know, it's typical. So
I mean, how many, like, we're 90s kids, right? Like, were we all put on Ritalin? I know I was, my husband was. We were misdiagnosed with ADD because, we were all of a sudden.
you were creative and imaginative.
Creative. Also, that was kind of the period of time when they were dumping a bunch of chemicals into our food. And so maybe we weren't learning material as easily as brains of kids did before we were like
Poisoned.
poisoned. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, I struggle a lot to, determine how I'm going to educate my children because I completely don't trust the educational system, private or public at this point. And a lot of that comes from my own experience, but also it's so much worse today for kids today than I think it was for us.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the case.
Definitely, yeah. How did you leave home at 14? Where'd you go? What did you do?
Oh, my ass was sent to boarding school.
Okay.
No, I had a really, I mean, that's half the story. I had a really troublesome relationship with my mother. And so we just came to the decision, my family, that I would not survive if I stayed at home. And I was the youngest child. And so, yeah, I was really fortunate. I found a school that I liked.
Yeah.
And so I left at 14. It was the week before 9/11.
Wow.
And I remember just the absence of stress at this new environment did so much for me in terms of my Tourette's. Not just, I stopped my medication cold turkey, which I'm not, co-signing as like a treatment that people should do. Like that can be quite dangerous too, but I did that. And I changed my diet and I started heavy metal detoxing. And then 9/11 happened, and all of that still was less stressful than the home environment from which I came. So,
Wow.
yeah, that's how.
I find that amazing that at that young you were able to begin to piece your life together and begin to solve those problems on your own and take those steps, which I guess you innately felt were right for you. I think that's just absolutely incredible to actually have the experience that young. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it seems like something a manifestor would do. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, when there's a will, there's a way. And for me, I think because my illness, although I don't like to think of Tourette's as an illness, it was for me, it was so obvious. Because I mean, my Tourette's was so severe. I was pulled out of my school. People tell me, people who knew me back then tell me that I looked possessed. I mean, I had no control over my bodily movements. It was really severe. So, pain can be a really powerful motivator. And I know you guys have talked about that on this podcast before, but I think that's often when we become motivated to change is when it's just too painful living the way that we are. That was the case for me.
And that's when the choice happens, right? It's either you do something about it and you go through the painful process of detoxing within and without, or you just capitulate and completely numb yourself to that pain and shut it out.
I've done that too. Yeah, I've done it all. Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here. I'm glad you made it through that all.
Yeah, I'm so happy you made it through here because again, you come through the fires and through the flames and reborn as a new person, probably multiple times in your life.
Yeah.
And here you are to tell your story and to be a shining example as an amazing mother to your children. And I know you're a warrior mom. I know you have so much love for your children, and you do whatever you can to protect them, to guide them the best way possible. And, you know, it's a really, really important thing. You know, it's a really important responsibility. And so I commend you for that and what you do. Your children are blessed to have you as a mother.
Thank you.
So what happened after 14? Like, what was I like hearing more of your story too.
Yeah. So after that, I kind of bounced around the country. I went to Arizona for a year. Then I moved back to New York, where I got my completely useless liberal arts college degree. But yeah, I was telling you this story beforehand. I was in an advertising class and I had a final term project, and I decided to base it off of Michael Sarian's work. And my teacher thought it was so preposterous that she threatened to fail me if I didn't rewrite the paper. So I rewrote the paper,
And it was on what, subliminal messaging and programming that goes on in advertising.
Yeah, like subversive symbologies and advertising, which actually isn't that hard to believe. It's really, as far as like Michael Sarian's work goes, like that's about as vanilla as it gets. Like it's really not that far out there. Yes.
Foundation marketing.
Yes, but she thought it was so preposterous that she forced me to rewrite it or threatened to fail me. So I agreed to rewrite it, but I didn't really rewrite it. I threw some other stuff in there, but I dug my heels in. I wasn't going to, bend to that. And so I did fail that exam, but I passed and,
You gotta love academia at least in that way, because I don't want to knock all of it, but it's like, they're creating the future free thinkers of America, right?
I know. I'm surprised she didn't read that and think, oh, I've never heard of this before. This is a really interesting perspective, or might I look into this? There's no like intellectual curiosity. So
all anyone has to do is go back to the testimony of Yuri Bezmenov and his socialist subversion over 3 generations, which
I hadn't seen that yet, but you're right.
You can find out get that link and send it to your professor. Be like, hey, so this was this interview happened before we were even in class together, just so you know. Like I've said this often on my Instagram, is that's a video, the interview with G. Edward Griffin with KGB defector Yuri Bezmenov, that I share often with people. I was like, here, this was in 1984, and here's an ex-KGB agent, whatever you want to say, who's literally laying down what ideological subversion is and what they do and how they go into the institutions, and it takes like a generation or so. Like, it's right here for you, But again, we're not taught that. Like, do we learn about that in school, in elementary school,
we're not taught that
in high school? No.
Yeah. Well, no, and I find that even if you present that to people and you show it to them, it won't compute, it won't bypass. It's like in the the Matrix, the Mr. Smith character, where like something will take over their body. We're like, no, I reject it. I don't believe it. That's, and it's very clearly in front of them, but they won't see it.
Well, that's the proof that it's worked.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But anyway, to continue on, after college, right away, I moved out to LA to pursue music, because that's kind of what I always intended to do with my life. And it didn't take very long for me to learn what's required of someone to really make it in that industry. And I think a lot of people listening to this will probably know what I'm picking up on, will pick up what I'm laying down. I mean, but I realized I can't compromise myself like that. And so then,
I was just agreeing with you, sorry.
Oh yeah. I'm sure too. So I had to really think about what I was going to do with my life at that point, because the plan was always to pursue music. And that's when I kind of found IIN, the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And I was always really passionate about nutrition and healing modalities and helping people. But I didn't really know what that was going to look like. And I kind of heard like a whisper in my ear, like health coach. And I was like, I've never heard of that before. I'm going to Google health coach. And that's how I came to find IIN. So that's when I started getting involved in the health coaching.
Mhm.
And then around 2018, I got pregnant with my son, River. And just California, just a scary place to raise a family right now with like the medical authoritarianism going down there. And SB 276 was on the books, which of course was the bill to eradicate religious exemptions and medical vaccine exemptions. So with my history with vaccine injury, I knew it just wasn't a safe place for my kids to grow up. All the Hollywood stuff aside, which is enough of a reason to leave. But yeah, and so we came back here to Atlanta, and this is where we've planted our roots.
Hot Atlanta.
Yeah, very hot right now.
Yeah, it's pretty hot here in shitty Los Angeles, California, according to you. No, I'm kidding. I'm in Topanga. It's a little different. That's for sure.
So
but
awesome.
I agree with everything you said. So
yeah,
let's talk about self-sabotage, because that was in your bio, and that's obviously something that you've come to understand. So tell me from your perspective, what is the nature of self-sabotage, and what is it that motivates someone to continue to do things which are obviously working against them?
Well, this is a very, very layered issue. So for the first 7 years of a person's life, our brainwave state is in theta, which is like the hypnotic brainwave state. So what's the function and purpose of that? When you're a young child and you're a baby, you are looking at the behaviors of your family members and the people around you and learning what's required of you to survive, to be accepted by your village, your tribe, your herd. So this is very much a biological, like sink or swim. I need to survive, so I need to take on these behaviors. This is the messaging that we're getting when we're that young. And so what happens in like your traditional Western family during those first 7 years? Well, mom might go to work and come home and drink a lot of wine at night. Dad might go to work, come home and drink a lot of beer and whiskey at night. The TV's on. We're eating, pizzas and burgers, and we're injecting ourselves, and we're on our phones all the time. So what children are raised learning right now is that in order to fit into society, in order to literally survive, what do I have to do? I have to drink poison. I have to eat poison. I have to watch poison and read poison, and just everything is kind of an assault on that child's brain. But this is what we learn is required for us to survive, because again, hundreds of thousands of years ago, in order to survive, you had to be accepted by your herd. But right now, take a look around. What's going on with the herd? Like, everyone's like, I'm team Pfizer, I'm team Moderna, right? Like the herd is heading for the cliff. Yeah. And so when people,
I'm a Pfizer girl in a Pfizer world.
If I could never see that on my timeline again, I would just,
oh my God,
get on my knees and praise God right now.
Yes, praise God.
Yeah.
Anyways, I had to interrupt you on that.
No,
put it out there for me.
So obviously the collective, is walking off a cliff.
Yeah. So I think that most of our self-sabotaging behaviors come from being deeply afraid to stand out and to be truly exceptional. you're going to stand out, right? If you want to like go to your 9-to-5 job and just like make it paycheck to paycheck, good on you. But most people don't want that life. Most people want to accrue wealth. People want to be extremely healthy and energetic, but the herd is not healthy and energetic. The herd is not wealthy, right? So
people want those things, but they don't do the things that are going to get them that those things. Do you know what I'm saying? And these are the reasons you're talking about.
Yeah, and most people who have achieved that aren't honest about what they did to achieve that as well. So, you know, oftentimes there's a reason why you might be, you know, let's say you want to lose like 30 pounds, okay? A lot of people come to me, they want to lose weight, fine. I get it. That's why a lot of people hire health coaches. So you start doing really well, you're cleaning up your diet, you're exercising, and then you run out of steam. And then all of a sudden, bam, you binge, you know, you're drinking on the weekends and everything. What happened? Well, what happened was usually that person was right at the cusp of breaking through. And so subconsciously, their mind goes, wait a minute, if I really lose the 30 pounds or I really make all this money, what are my friends going to think about me? Because my friends are over here doing the same thing that we've always been doing. And it's not like a conscious thinking pattern most people go through. It's deeply, deeply subconscious because, again, this is all about being accepted by the herd because this is our survival now. Yeah. Granted, today, you don't need to be accepted by the herd to survive. In fact, I would argue the opposite, that in order to really thrive, you need to go against the crowd. But it's all like deep biological wiring to be accepted. So what happens to, you know, if you have a herd of animals and one of them sticks their head up, they're no longer as safe. They're like the one with the head up, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, that links into a topic which we talk about so often, which is the idea of responsibility, right? Because there's not really a responsibility associated with doing everything that the herd's doing. But the moment that you step into individuality, there's freedom, but freedom is inseparable from responsibility. And as Sigmund Freud says, most people are completely terrified of responsibility. And as Michael Tsarian often says, most people who say they want freedom don't really want freedom. They want freedom from freedom, which is ultimately responsibility. That's
what like Jordan Peterson, who like there aren't a lot of people who have been more maligned in the press than Jordan Peterson, but he says like in the route out of like depression is actually more responsibility. You become more responsible for your life, and that equals freedom.
Yeah.
And what's scary about right now is that if you even utter the word personal responsibility, like, oh my God, you're so privileged to talk about that. How dare you speak about personal responsibility? You are so privileged. And so we are now like immersed in this weird culture where
it's very fucking weird.
Yeah, you're better off the more victim. It's very you get your social status. Your social status is determined by how victimized you are. Mm-hmm. And people don't really want to think about what the implications of this are 30 years from now. Yeah. But this all goes back to like the Lurey what's his name?
Bezmenov,
yeah. And I mean, I don't believe any of this is by accident.
Yeah, I was recently told I'm very privileged for considering health to be a choice. Actually.
Oh, I get told that like all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's right. You're right. It comes down to the level of victimization and the complete unwillingness to face the fact that we are responsible on some level to continue to deny the fact that you're responsible for your health, that you're responsible for your well-being, that the choices that you make mentally, emotionally, physically do impact how you turn up in terms of your health is fucking nonsense, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not like, at least from my point of view, it's not like I'm saying you can't be a victim. Like, people are victimized in this world, but at what
or that you deserve your illness.
yeah, but at what point do you take the reins back, or do you seek out people and do your healing and look into your past and do the shadow work? Like, at some point you got to take the reins back and do the work. You know, you can be a victim, but then what? You're just going to stay in that state for 20, 30 years? You know what I mean?
On one level, aren't we all victims? Haven't we all been deeply traumatized by this malignant culture, which is now, showing its ugly face more than ever? Like, we have lived through this experience of the big daddy literally trying to, completely brainwash us and subvert us into believing complete and utter lies. We have all lived through that. We've all been through that. That is very traumatizing to actually even, accept that fact. But, what are you going to do? Remain in an apathetic state and just kowtow? Or are you going to take that information and do something about it?
Amen.
Amen. Now you're
tough, man.
Now you're supposed to say a woman.
A woman. Excuse me, a woman.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Let's just completely alter the English language and history. But that's another conversation.
Well, that's part of it.
Yeah. Anyways. Just going to take a deep breath after that.
Man, just the reality is the reality. And, like, sometimes we don't, like, not that we should, but often we don't step back and actually realize and acknowledge what it is that truly is taking place from purely a realistic level. Knowing what is now obviously known. I don't want to stay in this on this topic or whatnot, but the facts are the facts, and it's mind blowing. It really is.
And so again, we can talk about this till the cows come home. But like, you talk about self-sabotage, like what are the solutions? Like, what do you recommend to people that they need to do to make these changes in their lives? Like, to do the things that you did at a very young age, where you were like, shit, like, I'm not in the greatest, most sustainable environment to grow. And, like, I need to go. I have this issue. I have this medical issue. Like, these doctors aren't helping me. And a lot of people will just stay in that place of, like, oh, they're not helping me. Oh, I have another sickness. Oh, I'm taking these pills. Oh, they're not working. Oh, feel sorry for me, but you didn't do that. So
some people are pathologically addicted to suffering and being a victim. And so some people, and I have people like that in my family who, like, their identity is wrapped up in their victimization. And we see this a lot playing out, like, across this country in particular. And I don't know how to help those kinds of people, but for people who are really desiring to change, then there are simple things that aren't actually that simple, but, like, on paper, it's really simple. Things like being very conscientious of what you put in front of your eyes. So being mindful of the content that you're watching, because we are human beings. We are designed to emulate what we see. And this goes back to, mimicking kids mimicking their family members, so that it's about survival. So being very turning off the CNN. I think I heard it on your podcast. It's like fast food for the brain, right? All of these propaganda channels. Being very mindful about what you're reading as well, where you're focusing your attention, what you're putting into your body. Things like caffeine and alcohol and sugar and packaged and processed foods, it literally puts your brain into a fight or flight response. So how are you going to achieve your highest dreams? How are you supposed to achieve the kind of health that you want if you're in fight or flight, right? And of course, the fight or flight response is a biological mechanism, that our body goes through in order to survive if there is a very real and dangerous threat, like a saber-toothed tiger or someone's breaking into your house, right? What happens? Like your prefrontal cortex shuts down, the blood goes to your extremities so you can run away, digestion shuts down. So you're not going to be making really wise choices in your life if your brain is under assault. And everything in our life is kind of designed to assault that part of our brains. The blue lights on our screens, from the TV, your computer, your phone. Then we have the junk that they're spraying in the air and the shit that can I curse?
You can fucking curse.
I've probably cursed already. Yeah,
That's
sorry.
right.
The shit that they're spraying on our crops. They need a full hazmat. You're telling me a guy needs a full hazmat suit to spray your corn and you can eat that corn?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but if you're like putting all of these things in your body, all this crap into your body, then your brain you might not think about that. You might just take the Tylenol and think, oh, this is totally a normal thing for me to do. Doesn't matter that the person in the lab who made it was like in goggles and had a mask on. It's fine.
So like with your clients, how do you get someone to the point of actually, wanting to consciously eliminate those things from their lives that no longer serve them? Like, is there a releasing process, or is it just simply by the time they come to you and they've made that decision already, they already have the willingness and they just need someone to, I guess, push them?
Well, generally people don't want to spend hundreds of dollars on something unless they're like really ready to have a breakthrough. Usually by the time people get to people like me, they're really suffering and they're just like, I'll do anything.
Yeah.
And I'm careful too when I screen people, because I don't want to take on clients who I'm going to fail. Like, I don't want to just take your money and not help you. So if I don't feel, and I have friends all the time who I'm very close with who say, I want to hire you. And I'm like, no, I can't work for you. This would not work. Not because I don't think I could help a close friend, because that's not true. It's because if I don't think that person is really willing to make changes in their life, why would I would feel terrible taking that person's money, taking their time, giving them hope if I can't really help them. So I'm pretty careful I when someone comes to me, they want to work with me, I'll screen them. I have them fill out forms and stuff, kind of like anyone else does. I'm just not willing to work with someone if I think that we wouldn't be successful. It doesn't feel right to me to do that.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, ultimately it'll just drain you, I guess.
Yeah, and like I want a high success rate too.
There we go. And it makes it more fun too. At the end of the day, it's like you want to work with who you want to work with. And if you work with motivated, committed people who are suffering, but deep down inside, that they're willing to take the next step. I think it's a win-win situation. And you're just trying to like pull things out of people and they're just like, don't really want to be there. It's just a completely different energy and vibe. So.
Yeah. And oftentimes people will come and it needs to be, they need more like support from other practitioners. So sometimes, especially if someone has like real history of like addiction or trauma, something that might be a little bit out of my wheelhouse, then I might say, okay, I feel comfortable working with you if you also have, a therapist, or you're working with this person. And in fact, like I don't have a lot of men who come to me. It's generally women who come to me, but Gerasimos, you're always like the person that I think of to for a referral if someone comes to me and they're a man and they're like out a little, I don't feel like I'm qualified really to help that person.
Thank you for thinking of me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm loving this. This is great. We're going in all different directions and all different topics and subjects.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Well, let me ask you this. What do you think what do you think is going to happen? Like, what do you think is going to happen?
That's a loaded question, bro.
I know, but like, you share a lot on your Instagram page, like current events, your thoughts, like talking about the craziness of the world and this kind of like communo-fascist huge push where like, our rights are taken away and we're being turned into drone bot slaves. Where two of us are in the US, we got someone in Australia. Like, are you optimistic, or do you think it's gonna get really bad before it gets better? Do you think more people are waking up? Do you think more people are waking up and more people are digging the heels in?
So I think that part of the reason why I'm very optimistic right now, part of that is probably because I made a conscientious decision months ago that I was really only going to invest my time in other truth seekers and people who are really committed to making important changes in this world and waking people up. So those are the people that I interact with on most days. So I might be more inclined to think, oh, this is getting really good. People are waking up. But then there's a part of me that, I kind of go back and forth too. Part of me thinks like, well, maybe we're expanding into the fifth dimension and half of us are going up here and then the rest are going to stay down here. And then, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
And then other times I think this might get a lot worse before it gets better. One of the great gifts of this insane vaccine program is that the warp speed or whatever, is that it's forcing ordinary people who would never think twice about what they're injecting into their kids' bodies. It's forcing them to think, well, wait a minute. This vaccine was awfully rushed. So how are vaccines normally tested? And then they might go down that avenue. And then all of a sudden they realize like, oh, wow, this is all a big scam. So I think in a lot of ways that this whole Great Reset disaster has hugely backfired. Mm-hmm. And I happen to think that's by the grace of God, mm-hmm. that a lot of people are wakening up. And I know the term, the Great Awakening, was kind of co-opted by like the Trump and the QAnon and all of that. But I do feel like a great mass awakening is happening. And so that gives me, that I can get out of bed in the morning because I think, okay, people are really waking up. I have, people like my friends' parents who will message me online and say, oh yeah, I didn't get that vaccine because I read your article and I looked into it and I think that's just a bad idea. Mm-hmm. And,
yeah,
I think, wow, that's
unexpected. And it's like, I like that you said that because we had brought it up. I don't know if it was with our interview with David on his show, but that is the silver lining, is that because the vaccine has come into the forefront for 15 months, people have been looking into just like vaccines in general. And I think more people are getting hip to even what goes on in them or what goes in them, like just even the ingredients.
Yeah.
I mean, there are medical professionals, doctors and nurses that they don't even know what's in them. They have no clue.
Most don't. They'll just tell you there's no mercury.
Yeah.
That's like their line.
Oh yeah, it's just
there's
like it's the antigen and that's it.
Yeah,
or the creator of the mRNA vaccine now, Robert Malone, right? Who's sounding the signal. So,
yeah.
Isn't it amazing that we have in the last 15 months 2 medical interventions, and you have one, the PCR test, that was invented by Nobel Prize winner Dr. Kary Mullis, who just happened to die about 6 months before this whole thing happened.
Yeah, coincidental.
I'm
sure.
Where he's on video being like, it's not meant to be used to diagnose infectious disease. Yeah. And it's like, let's just throw everything out the window that person said, the inventor of it. And now, like Joel said, we have Dr. Robert Malone, who's invented this technology, who's been speaking out, and he's being not only censored, but he's also like being scrubbed from the internet. Like this is 1984 right here. Okay, we got the Ministry of Truth.
Yeah.
Coming at you, the thought police.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like literally in front of our eyes, he's now being discredited and replaced as the inventor.
He's not even anti-vax. He's not even anti-mRNA vaccines. He's just saying this is, much more dangerous than, previously thought.
Yeah, and it's not like I can understand people saying like, oh, all you crazy anti-vaxxers and crazy moms and people with no degrees are just saying all this nonsense. But like, we had so many people the last 15 months, people that are for vaccination in general, whether it's Dr. Vanden Bosch, you had Michael Yeadon, who was the foremost CFO the chief scientific officer of Pfizer, who's been sounding the alarm. So these are people out there, and there's a lot of MDs, there's a lot of other PhDs who maybe are on board with the normal vaccine schedule, but they're like, what the fuck are we doing? But again, they're not being allowed to be on the television, on the news, We're not having equal opportunity for voices to be heard. There isn't some round table where you got Fauci on one side and Michael Yeadon or Peter McCullough or Professor Vanden Bosch or whoever it is, so many people speaking out. There isn't that. That doesn't occur.
You just had reportedly 1 to 2 million people in London marching in the streets, right? And as the saying goes, man, the revolution will not be televised. So
absolutely, yeah.
We can't expect that, but there's absolutely no doubt that there is, on some level, a great awakening taking place. I mean, trust in the established system has diminished beyond possible belief. And it almost seems to me as though they're just trying to grasp at what they can get, being like the lowest density of us to an extent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're just trying to take what they can get and run at this point. That's the way I kind of view it at the moment. It's going to be interesting how this plays out. And I mean, this is still early with this vaccine rollout, and we're seeing this level of injury and this level of adverse reaction. What's this going to look like 6 months down the road? That's what freaks me out.
We'll have 18 new variants,
But what's the fallout of the actual vaccine going to be? Yeah. Are we all going to have direct experience of family and friends who have had this,
They're getting really sick and dying?
Yeah, dude. And this is happening,
Yeah, it's happening. And, there are a lot of different people that have different prognoses and predictions. And I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, but
there's been like a weird phenomenon where not women who've been vaccinated, but women who've been around people a lot who've been vaccinated are having a lot of issues with their menstrual cycles. So even women who are like postmenopausal are getting their periods, and then girls are getting like multiple periods in 1 month. And at first, like anyone who was sharing this information on social media, we were like taken down. My friend Kim Albert, she had to make like 5 different Instagram pages because she was she had thousands of pages of people messaging her saying something like this was happening to them. And she was taken down over and over and over again. And then sure enough, like last week, like on CNBC or something, or HuffPo, something like that, there was an article like, oh, there's probably a reasonable explanation why your cycle might be off if you're around someone who's been vaccinated. So we've gone, okay, first it's like forbidden information. That person's a quack. They should not even have a social media presence there's a reason why this may be.
Yeah.
So,
How many people have been censored, deplatformed for talking about the PCR test, for talking about mRNA vaccines, all these things.
The president of the United States of America.
Yeah, like they're exactly.
Just him.
It's got taken off Twitter. Again, whatever you want to think about the person, it's like people are being censored, and it's like this meme I shared recently. It's like, name a time in history where the people who were censoring and burning books were the good guys.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah. It reminds me of like a really abusive boyfriend who beats you and is like, but it's for your good because I'm protecting you.
Yeah, it's for your
own good. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that's really what it's like.
It's mass.
I mean, what do we know? We're just
gaslighting.
a bunch of crazy conspiracy theorists,
No.
Another great thing that was going around, I'm sure I shared it, was like, what's the difference between the conspiracy theory and the truth? 6 to 12 months.
6 to 12 months. Yeah. No, I mean, well, and that's so when you asked me, like, do I think this is going to get better or worse? What went through my mind in that moment was like, well, it's kind of like alarming when you study this stuff for decades and then like it all starts coming true and you realize, all that shit I read about is real.
Oh, yeah.
So all this
I mean-
other shit I read about that's coming? No.
Yeah.
Well, no,
You
I mean,
know.
David Icke pretty much has been saying this
Yeah.
shit for 20, 30 years, you know? I mean, I think it was like
Yeah.
10 or 12 years ago, he did a video series or a video where he was like, oh yeah, there's going to be new viruses. I'm going to try to force vaccinate. You know how many people called him a crazy person? I mean,
Well,
even
Bill
last year
Cooper.
saying, people like us saying they're going to be vaccine passports last year.
Yeah.
And they're like, no,
yeah.
you're crazy. They would never do that. They would never put vaccinated and non-vaccinated people separately.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
I
but
can't believe
again,
we're here. I can't
What'd you
believe
say?
we're here. I can't believe
it's like,
we're
we're
here.
here.
How did you
Here.
know that they were going to release a virus and shut down the entire world? Well, because they literally ran a simulation 3 months beforehand and told us this is what they were going to do.
Yeah.
That's how we knew. We're not just all wild
Yeah, and who knows
psychic.
what the virus is, where it came from, whatever's going on, pandemic.
Oh,
Yeah,
come
it's like
on,
this
guys.
shit-
It's not out of the ordinary for them to run a simulation on exactly what's happening right now to it.
On a coronavirus
Come on.
with the Gates
Ridiculous.
Foundation.
Yeah, he's such
Yeah.
a good person. I don't know. I can't believe you would speak negative of that man. He's
I
a
know.
philanthropist. He loves every child in India and Africa. He would never do anything to hurt them.
He's wearing
Yeah,
a
my
pink-
mother-in-law
he's wearing a pink sweater,
messaged.
dude.
What?
My mother-in-law messaged me not too long ago. She's like, I think you're really wrong about him. I think he's just really trying to help people. And I was
Yeah,
like,
look at the pink sweater. He's,
Oh, yeah.
I love
It's
my
very-
husband.
very
I'm gonna
passive.
keep
No
my
person
mouth
with a
shut.
pink sweater would do mean things.
He
know?
like talk like that. No,
I love that.
Chucky man.
Even
I
if
love
you
that
look
Alex
into
Jones
his
thing.
history, his father's history, and learn about his, you know, it's like, but again, people don't want to do that work.
He literally is an evil genius.
Yeah.
Genius debatable, but like
Yeah.
he really that's his archetype.
Anyways, listen, I love these roundtables and I love us talking shit. Like, it's fun. And at the end of the day, like, it's like I want to just create my life and my existence as best as I can. There's craziness going out there, you know.
Yeah.
I feel like I have the ability to kind of keep one foot in the chaos and it doesn't really impact me emotionally like maybe some other people. Because, you know, I'll talk about this stuff or I'll share this with people and they're like, how can you even like read these articles or do that? Like, I just feel like depressed. Whereas I don't know what I have in my system or how I'm designed that like, I'm okay with doing it. And I could sit here and complain with the rest of everyone, but what are we doing? You know, how are you living your life? You know, what are we doing to create the life that we want? And I think that's what it comes down to ultimately. So I want to ask you, like, with all this crazy stuff that's going on, like, what are you doing to like, you know, live the life that you want with your children, with your husband? Like, how do you kind of, I don't want to say shield yourselves because you're doing this deep, holy, sacred work of like fighting for truth, fighting for justice. But like, what do you do to kind of keep your vibration high and to feel aligned? And yeah.
Well, right now I'm in the period of life where I'm really focused on motherhood. And so nothing really grounds you or tethers you to reality and love and truth quite like being a mom or being a dad and being with your kids and realizing that everything that I'm modeling for them right now, they're going to pick up on. So they're going to, you know, my babies are way too young to know what's going on like in the world, but
How old are your kids?
I am their world. 2.5 and 5 months.
Okay.
So they're really
same.
young.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
I've got a 2.5-year-old and 6-month-old. She was born in
Oh,
December.
cool.
But
Nice.
I'm noticing for me, like my 2.5-year-old, I'm having to explain the whole mask thing because she's noticing masks when she goes out and she sees them out and she's asking the questions. So it's like,
Yeah.
how do you respond to that? For me, I just say, oh, they're playing a silly game, baby.
That's sweet. I mean, when
I mean, it is a silly game, so
It
you're
is.
accurate.
Yeah, it
You're
is.
accurate.
It is.
That's really sweet for me. When we would go to, I mean, I don't wear a mask, but back when you kind of had to, I'd have my son on my hip and I'd just like, this is crazy. Everybody's gone mad. This isn't normal. Like,
Yeah.
look at mommy. The mask is down. The mask is down. Just don't pay attention to what they're doing. This is all crazy. And I just tried to reinforce this idea that this is not normal. Don't think it is.
Yeah.
And my heart broke a few times when I would pull my mask down and he would pull it back up, you know?
Yeah.
So I kind of stopped taking him to the store because I didn't want him to, I pulled him out of like the music class we took him to. They wanted all the adults in masks. I said, I'm not doing this. So I tried to keep it as honest and normal as possible. But we had his birthday party. No one wore masks. Like,
Oh yeah.
we were in the thick of it. Like I just, I try.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just try and model for him what it is that I want, what I want him to think is normal.
Yeah.
And we're really lucky because I'm in Atlanta. So things have been open for almost a year now. People aren't really wearing masks anymore. So
yeah.
I feel grateful that he's young enough that he probably won't remember this. And I will fight like hell to keep it this way because I know they're going to do like the something variant and try and shut it down again. I'm sure. I mean, I don't know. That's my prediction.
Yeah. In Australia, like, I'm in a lockdown right now. They just announced one. Every school holidays, there's a lockdown for 2 weeks now. While the kids are meant to be, while they're actually on holidays and meant to be out exploring and playing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it's almost like there's intentional traumatization happening here. So like we're like at the moment it's like a month or two no masks and then a month masks. And I've never worn a mask. I refuse to be muzzled. I walk everywhere.
Good.
I don't get hassled. I do the hassling, right? I'm like, what the fuck are you wearing that shit for? Like to everyone that I see, kind of thing. So yeah, but I think about it from her perspective and like just. Sometimes I get worried about, projecting where I'm coming from onto her as well. You know what I mean? Because it's like I'm such a deep thing within me where I don't want that to be normalized for her whatsoever to an extent. And it's like trying to be as conscious as possible of, at the same time, this is the reality that she entered into. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a work in progress, definitely.
When I'm feeling really fearful about what the world is going to be like that my kids are going to inherit, I just come back to, this belief that God created them to be here at this time for a reason. And so it's not an accident that our kids were born.
No, of course.
During the time that they were born in.
Yeah.
And so, we can do our job. We can serve them well by
trusting them,
yeah, parenting them in a way where they trust us as well,
yeah,
not lying to them, and also teaching them courage as well, that it's okay to stand out, it's okay to be brave and go against the grain. That's oftentimes the honorable thing to do.
Yeah,
so that's what I try to do.
Definitely. And like, because I feel like we're all born with this innate defiance, right? Like, I mean, you've got a 2-year-old. You know how defiant a 2-year-old can be, and it's like I don't want to diminish that within her at all. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want her to become passive to me because at the end of the day, she'll become passive to the world through that process. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's just about. Yeah, parenting's a trip. It's a thing in progress, definitely. I don't know where I was going with that. Just thinking about my current circumstances out loud at the moment. And yeah, in an ever-changing landscape and an ever-changing world.
I love that you both have children around the same age.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I really think that's beautiful, and I like just witnessing this conversation. I'm not a parent, so.
When are you going to get in the game, bro?
Yeah.
When are you going to get in the game?
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. See if it's in God's hands. It's in God's hands now. Yeah.
You guys will be amazing parents.
Oh, thank you.
I do hope that you decide to have children.
Oh, I appreciate that thought and message, and maybe we will. I don't know. We'll see.
Played it very cool there, bro.
I dated a guy from Topanga Canyon, and yeah, his name was Gaia.
Oh, really? Does it surprise me that someone from Topanga Canyon was named Gaia?
Oh, yeah.
Letting you know.
Yeah.
And did he have kids? Like, I'm wondering what the segue is.
Oh, I don't know. know. I don't.
You're like, I just dated someone. I just want to let you know about
Say-
someone from Topanga.
We'll see.
No, very like, I feel like they're kind of an awakened people that gravitate to there. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
some.
his name was
Yeah.
Gaia.
Like
Oh
in
my
most
God.
places, you have awakened people and then not. But listen,
Yeah.
at least with Topanga, people who are really drawn to nature and kind of doing their own thing, don't want to be bothered. You know, it's definitely a place for that, and still want to be close to a like a major city and a major hub.
And that's the other thing that this whole process has caused. Like, we're all almost shifting to our authentic environments, right? Or environments that we know are more resonant with where we're going internally as well. Like, when this stuff happened, we moved out of Sydney. We moved an hour down the coast to a smaller community. So yeah, something that we talk about so often, but it's like, it's forced people to either step deeper into authenticity or, you know what I mean, to, I guess, continue to succumb to the powers that be.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. You know, we have been thinking about where we want to go, and obviously the minute this happened, I went, oh, some things are in the works and they're happening. Things from many years ago that were discussed. I don't know if I want to stay in the hub of Santa Monica. Plus, you know, I'd leave the house in Santa Monica and someone would be like 50 feet down the sidewalk from you, double masked, and like run into the street because you were on the same side of the sidewalk as they were, like 50 feet away. And I was like, my wife knows me. I was like, if I have to deal with this shit every fucking day, like, no. So anyways, it all worked out. The stars aligned. We found a place and here we are.
Yeah. It's a good spot.
Cheers to all of us doing what we needed to do to take care of ourselves and take care of our families.
For sure.
Definitely, man. Well, I mean, what other choice is there? Like, what other choice are you going to make at this point? Like, how can you turn the other way now? You know what I mean? And I'm sure that, I mean, this is something that's obviously a continual process, and there's going to be harder times. And we'll just continue to have that courage to make the right choices and to, you know, follow where we're being called, I guess, to go.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Allison, I want to ask you a couple things. One, to people that are listening, and to people that maybe haven't taken the plunge to speak out more, like what do you have to say to the people that are watching, like that want to speak truth more, that want to dive deeper? Like, what message do you have? How can you inform them as the manifestor that you are?
Yeah. You know, wherever we go, however this pans out, we're all going to be on that road together. And so I think we're in a unique period of time right now where we're at a fork in the road. This could go any which way. And so it's really going to be, I believe, incumbent upon people to be brave, to be courageous, to be willing to look like a fool, to step up, do the right thing, and just speak out about what you see and what you think. I mean, it could be something so small as just a young girl who doesn't want to get the vaccine and tells her family, I'm not getting the fucking vaccine. You know, it could be the mom saying, I'm not masking my kid. I'm going to have to pull him out of school if you continue to require that he wear a mask. It could be something so small as just hugging your parent when you see them and saying, I'm not going to let fear of this, you know, phantom virus to prevent me from loving on you. I mean, it just takes little acts of courage to completely change the course that we're heading in.
Yeah.
So, you know, and also something really magical happens when you do start speaking your truth is you gravitate, you truly gravitate towards people, and people are gravitated towards you who need that and who are like that and who are doing that. So you will become way more supported once you start speaking out than you probably realize that you would be. Mm-hmm. I was terrified to speak out about a lot of these things, and I didn't even start speaking out about it until I was pregnant with my son River, and I was learning about all these vaccine issues. You know, I tried very hard to blend in, especially with Tourette's. I mean, I was like, so I had years where I stood out for all the wrong reasons. So more than anything, I wanted to just be like everyone else. But, you know, we are the adults. If you're listening to this, you're probably an adult, and we have to act like adults and stop acting like children. And children will stay quiet and just do what's required to get along. But that's not empowering. Everyone, we just need to kind of grow the fuck up a little bit.
Yeah. And now's the time, and we need you, you know? And I mean, basically what you're saying is that we're voting with every choice and every thought that we make at this point in time. We're voting for the world that we want to live in. We're voting for the experience that we want to have. So start voting, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. I have definitely connected with some of the most incredible people the last, few years, but definitely the last couple of years of speaking out more. And it's just like soul family, really, that I feel connected to. And, you know, I don't think this podcast would be happening if Joel and I weren't living and being and voting with our consciousness and our choices and our behaviors the way we have been. And I couldn't be more, more blessed or grateful for that. And you have to deal with the sadness and the mourning sometimes of relationships that end, that they stop serving the purpose. But that's part of growing the fuck up.
Yeah.
Growth is uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable process, but what are you going to do? Are you going to stay where you are, have all your thoughts and decisions at this point granted you a life that you consider to be fulfilling, and you wake up empowered every single day? You know what I mean? Or are you at the point now where you want to make a different choice and see how that plays out?
Nothing gets you higher. Nothing takes you higher than knowing that you're living your authentic truth and that your actions are aligning with your beliefs and your words. There's nothing, and as someone who has spent many years trying to numb myself through substance abuse, through all kinds of vices and various things, nothing will ever compare to when you wake up in the morning and you realize, oh my God, I'm really living my truth. I mean, that is like the cure-all
I'm me,
for
and there's
so
no one else I
much.
need to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, because
So
like,
true.
you know, we're all created with purpose, right? And so if you have like a fire in your belly and you want to change the world and you don't know how, then you just start where you're at with like your ministry is whatever's right in front of you, right? Those are the people you're meant to help, is whoever's right there in front of you. And you know, I know people who are suffering tremendously, yogis and you know, health practitioners who are really suffering because they're not living in their truth, and they're going along to get along, and they're getting the shot, and they're not speaking the truth of who they are and what they believe, and they're just suffering so much, and it's really hard to see, and no one has to live that way. It is so much harder to live that way than to be bold and walk in the truth of who you are.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I don't know, I hear some sound effects happening in the back.
Oh, sorry, Gwen, can you stop? I'm sorry. sorry.
No, that's all good. But I think this is a good place to end.
I think that was beautiful. That was absolutely perfect, man. And I was feeling it right there with you. Yeah,
it was really nice. So where can people find you and troll you on Instagram if they want? No, I'm just playing.
Troll away. On Instagram you can find me at Awaken with Allison. That's Allison.
And make sure to follow her backup account too.
Yeah. I think it's Awaken with Allison too. I don't know. I think it is. Yeah, I don't know. I'm always getting kicked off there. My website is AllisonLurey.com, although it needs some work. There's some outdated information. I think I was a vegan the last time it was a couple of years ago. Okay. So
it's okay. My website doesn't even work now, so I need to fix that. So I get it.
Yeah. If anybody's interested in coaching with me, You can email me, allie.lurey@gmail.com. Not super professional, but that's what I'm working with right now. And yeah, thank you guys for having me. This was really delightful.
No, so good to have you on, and just thanks for being who you are, and you know, being a voice for truth and being a light.
You guys as well.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Such a pleasure to have you, and keep doing your thing. And I'm sure this won't be the last conversation that we have. Really enjoyed just this round table on, you know, current events and getting the different perspectives, and
hearing your story too.
Good. Oh yeah.
I mean, again, like your story, like, yeah, you know, 14, I left home, just kind of doing my thing. I needed to find a different way, better way. Like, not many people can say that was their life, you know, or like, or came to that realization at that age. So again, I commend you for that inner strength.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate what you guys are doing here. I really believe in this podcast. I'll be promoting it and doing everything that I can. But yeah, you guys are doing such good work, and I'm deeply appreciative of everything I'm even learning just listening to y'all's podcasts and what the content you put out. You know, you're Osmos. You've always been such a good friend and a teacher for me as well. And I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I feel the same.
Yeah.
Well,
I wasn't going to bring this up, but let me bring it up. So you're a conventional Taurus, right? But in the telescopic system, the constellation of Taurus was actually in Gemini at the time of your birth. So in the system that I use, the esoteric system, you guys have the same astrology.
Really? What does that mean?
It means you're both Jupiter rising.
Oh.
Go on, magic cards here.
Should I watch that movie then?
You should watch Jupiter Ascending. I think everyone should watch Jupiter Ascending. It gives a lot of hints. You know, basically, you are the archetypal hero of your story. There's no questioning for me how you were able to do what you did. You know what I mean? Because Jupiter is that willpower. It's that understanding. It's that heroism to actually move forward with who they're meant to be. And that's your rising sign. So Sagittarius.
Jupiter is.
Jupiter is.
You know what's so funny?
Sagittarius.
I wanted to, if I had a little girl, I wanted to name her Jupiter, but I thought that would be too weird. Isn't that funny?
And her middle name should be Rising.
Rising Nixon.
Yeah. So Sagittarius was the constellation that was actually seen in the sky when you were born.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was actually going to send you a private message, Joel, to be like, yo, are you going to get into her teroscopic things at all too? Because we sometimes, depending on the guest, you know, maybe we'll tap into something. Like today, I tend to focus a little bit on your human design as a manifester. Again, for anyone that's watching that has no clue what we're talking about, reach out to me. If you want to know more about human design, reach out to Joel. If you want to hear more about his teroscopic system, but it's all cool stuff. It's all different types of information to allow you to really step more into your individuality. This is what we're talking about, how to step more and accept and honor your authentic truth. And there's a lot of these ancient systems that help shine a light, you know, that's just my view on it. So
absolutely,
that's really cool.
Cool. Well, until next time, everyone be well. And we'll be bringing another episode to you next week, but Allison, you're amazing. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you. I love both of you guys. Thank you for having me.
Love you too, right?
Yeah.
We love you too. And everyone listening, thanks for being here for the truth. Next time.
Cool.
Bye.
Peace.
Smoking mirrors, I'm seeing through the illusion. Waking up in a time, they think you're in a delusion. Somebody set the alarms, cause they be too busy snoozing. I'm in a DeLorean.